teach it, so go home and teach it to somebody. When you really know it, you can teach it. And that's when you know it. So that's how you practice. Show somebody else. That's how I know it so well, because I've been teaching it forever and ever. That's how people think I'm so smart, you know, and just have done it for so long. Anything you've done that long, if you haven't learned it by now, something's wrong with you, right? You shouldn't be working. You should be someplace somebody taking care of you. In a home somewhere. Okay? So let's look. So let's look at this sweater. Again, it originally sold for $40, was on sale for 15% off. So tell me, what is 15% of 40 without writing it down? What's 10% of 40? 4. So what's 15% of 40? 6. See how quickly you do that? You found the 10% is 4. So 5% is 2. So 15% was 6. See? 40, 10%, half of 10%. So that's 5%. That's 10%. Together is 15%. So you can do that right in your head. Because you're really even supposed to tip the Sonic people. You know that?
I always do, because they're
I do too.
They're waiters.
Yes, they are. Minimum wage.
Right.
But a lot of people don't. Well, no, well, they get minimum wage. Any hour that you don't make minimum wage, they have to pay you minimum wage. So, and for them, probably most of the time, they're getting paid minimum wage because so many people don't tip. Even if I buy a drink during happy hour, but I tip them at the real price rather than the discounted price. Sometimes I know they don't get many tips because they look like, sometimes they're so simple. But it's like, do you want change back? Well, if I want to change back, I would have given you an extra. Hello. So I just smile and say, no, that's yours. Come to class. I start passing out cards. You need to come to adult ed. I can help you with that.
That's a bad thing about these fast food places. I know McDonald's pays minimum wage.
That's all of them. It's not the bad thing. $7.50 an hour as opposed to 0. It's not so bad. The only thing about it is that most people just don't get enough hours. The wage is not so bad. You just have to, you just don't get 40 hours of work. If you get 40 hours at $7.50 an hour, that's a livable wage, especially if you have benefits with it.
Or especially if you have to have benefits.
Yes, but those jobs traditionally were for kids. They weren't for people trying to make a living and take care of a family. What happened was that all the jobs, the level has raised. And so a lot of people can't, because of education, get those higher jobs. So you have more people taking those jobs that were really meant for kids as their first jobs. You wouldn't want to know what I made on my first job. I looked at my little Social Security thing back when you guys weren't even born, when I was 16 and working. My first job in the hospital, my minimum wage back then was probably like $1.50. I can remember getting a raise to $1.85. I was like, woo! But everything else was cheaper. See, people think that we make so much more. I can remember when I was a kid, my dad worked for Pontiac General Motors, because I'm from Detroit, and just like people here work for aircraft, people there work for the car plant. And I can remember he brought home $100 a week. And $100 was a lot of money. He had 2 children at that time. My parents owned a house. We always had a car. My mother went to the grocery store every Friday. And we had meat. My dad was a meat eater, so we had meat at every meal. She bought fruit, snacks. My sister and I in Vegas were talking about, I remember she would buy the Mars bars pack. I think like 6 candy bars would come in there. Candy bars they never sold separately. They had ones like Forever Yours and things that they never, Snickers and Milky Way were the only ones that ever really came out of that. But they had about 6 different. They had a dark chocolate one that always got left in the box. But we had had all kind of fruit. I mean, we'd have grapes and oranges and apples, and I was thinking, how much was she spending on groceries? He only brought home $100. So chicken probably was like 20 cents or 50 cents or something, you know what I mean? Things were cheaper, so people started making more money, but everything started costing more, and I think about the Snickers bar, the size we have now, and you know, back then, you know, people always talking about the olden days. Well, let me tell you, how the olden days become your days very quickly. It's like, oh God, I'm the olden days now. But they were a nickel for a candy bar. You know, 10-cent bag of potato chips. Pop was 10 cents a bottle. So you could make, when I was making that little money, I was probably bringing home maybe $50, $60 every 2 weeks. I bought gas for my car out of that. I bought clothes for school. I was in high school then. I bought all my clothes for school. Bought my lunch. All of that out of that, and still had money to, you know, just to have fun. So, yeah, but it was, minimum wage was very low back then. And so, and again, those jobs, the job that I had was not meant for an adult. The adults that had that job worked full-time, where we were just working part-time. But they made the same amount we did. We just only worked 20 hours a week.
Was that back in the 50s or 60s? My dad can remember.
60s.
Dad can remember a loaf of bread was like 20 cents.
Yeah, 20 cents, 25 cents, yeah, the late 50s, early 60s. The late 60s is when I was 16 in the late 60s. 66 as a matter of fact. 16 and 66. That's when I started working. So, you know, things change, but they don't. You know, you make more money, but you pay more bills, so you still don't have any money to spend. No matter if you're making $1,000, if your bills are $1,000, you might as well make 100 and your bills are 100. Huh?
It's not all about the money.
No, it's not.
But back then, cars and appliances were built to last of all the stuff we
They
have
were,
nowadays.
back then is when they were built to last.
Yeah.
Now they're not built to last. You
I think
have to
nowadays
keep things a lot
all cheap
longer.
plastic.
Yeah,
That's
back
good,
then
because we
was
still got
metal.
our rides.
Yeah.
We didn't have our rides.
I can remember the first brand new car that I bought myself after I graduated college was $4,000. It was a Camaro, Cougar, a Cougar XR7 convertible. It was sharp. And my daddy said, $4,000? You're paying $4,000 for a car? I think about that too. I said, boy, people wish they could pay $4,000 for a car
That's
now.
like 40,000.
I know, and that's why it's hard for me to buy a new car, because I just can't think about
School used to
paying that kind of money for a car. Houses cost that much money, you know. But things just go up like that, and right now, you think about, just remember this, when you get to be 60 and look back at the things now, you can say, dang, we used to buy that bag of chips for $1. Now it's $3 for that, you know, things change just like that. Because people demand more money for wages, and as they demand more money for wages, everything else has to go up in order to pay those wages, so they really haven't won anything.
It's like my
Making
wife.
more money, but you're paying more, so when you do proportionately, see, that's how you figure it out, proportionately, you haven't gained anything. Because you're spending the same amount out of your money proportionately as you were before. So you still don't have any more left. People don't realize that.
It's like my wife wants a brand new car, but I have myself up for a second hand.
Second or third, whatever.
As long as it runs and it's decent.
There's no way I'll ever pay $20,000 for a car in my lifetime. No way.
You pay $4,000.
Yeah, I know back then, that's what my dad, I mean, he was looking like, oh my God. He said, I never paid that much money for a car. And I'm thinking, $4,000?
It's a lot easier to save it for $4,000 than change.
Well, back then it wasn't, because again, I was college graduate, then my first teaching job, my annual salary was $9,080. That's not a lot of money, but it was then. I mean, that's what teachers were making. You can imagine what other folks were making.
My girls in school, they can teach me.
That's it. Very noble professions, very rewarding when you see those lights come on in the eyes. Number 3. No, let's look at number 2. Because we're gonna look at that alternate way too. It says, Mr. and Mrs. Shin made $12,000, $12,000 for a down payment on a house. So far, they have saved 9,000 of the 12,000, right? They have saved 9,000 of the 12,000, right? That's what it is a fraction. Okay. And the question is, what percent have they saved? So 9,000 is what percent of 12,000, okay? Let's look at this. 9,000 of 12,000. What is that fraction? What is that fraction? 3/4, right?
Yeah.
So what is that percent? You see? You see? But your multiplication had to be there because you have to be able to see those facts. You had to pick out that 9/12 out of all of that and know that 9/12 is 3/4. And then you know that 3/4 is 75%. So you have to always be thinking, not just one way. You have to see how it all fits together, how percent and fractions and decimals all fit together, so that you can easily go between